Hey, how you doing? This is RJ. So today I'm going to talk about doublespeak and how I think even labeling what we see as the current entertainment industry and the current comic industry as those things is in itself doublespeak, because that's not what they are anymore. So, as usual, I will be using the comic industry as a microcosm, as an example of the larger entertainment industry, because we have good information on what is exactly going on within the comic industry and how exactly it became what it is, how exactly it works, all of those kinds of things. But it's really just a pattern for the larger entertainment industry itself. So talking about the entertainment industry generally by talking about the comic industry specifically. But before we get there, let's just talk about doublespeak itself for a second. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I was watching some videos and they're talking about how in Europe, the normal person is now understanding the doublespeak that the corporate media uses when they actually do reporting. And funny enough, they compared this to how people under the USSR had to learn the doublespeak of the state media so that when they heard certain words or phrases, they knew exactly what they meant because they meant something other than what they were stating. And we have our own version of that in North America. It's slightly different than in Europe, but the corporate media uses doublespeak. So just to give you two examples, when the corporate media says something like, mostly peaceful protesters, most of us now know that that means that they're violent rioters. They simply can get away with it because they have the same political leanings as the people who run the corporate media. Or another example of this is when someone in the corporate media says far right or far right extremist. Most of us now understand that what they mean by that is simply people who are on the right-hand side of the political spectrum. Sometimes even people who are in the center part of the political spectrum now. So the word or phrase doesn't actually mean what, if language was used honestly, it actually means. It means something completely different. And so it is my assertion that what we see today as the entertainment industry, and more specifically the comic industry, when we call them those names, that's a misnomer. They're not actually those things anymore. That's doublespeak. The comic industry calls itself the comic industry, but it's not the comic industry. The so-called entertainment industry calls itself the entertainment industry, but it is not an entertainment industry. Both the entertainment industry and the comic industry specifically died. They're already dead. I don't know what the specific date would be for the entertainment industry itself, but I know certainly for comics, it was about 2012. It was a slow, lingering death that I saw coming within about 1995 until 2012. But it's dead. That system, that old industry, what we would normally call the comic industry, it's dead, gone, buried. What we see now is an entirely different creature. And to call it a comic industry, again, is simply doublespeak. And one of the simple ways of confirming this is the fact that the entertainment industry no longer produces entertainment, just as the comic industry no longer produces comics. That might be the thing that they are using as a physical medium to deliver their actual product, but their actual product is a message. And I wanted to talk about this for two reasons. Number one being that this is now June 2022, if you're not listening to this video when it originally came out. And June is the month of doublespeak, especially doublespeak in the corporate sense, which is what I'm talking about, because you have all of these corporations saying, yes, we're all for these alphabet people. But again, that's just doublespeak. If you look at their actions around the world, they certainly are not. It is just a performative action to try to gain support. And really, that's all that it is, a performative action. And the other reason that I wanted to talk about this was because within the comic industry itself, this problem, this alphabet problem, which is the problem of not delivering an actual physical product, but using that physical product as a means of delivery of a different product, which is a message, this problem is a year-long problem. It doesn't just happen in June. And a lot of people are just looking at what is going on specifically within this month and saying, how can we fix the comic industry? I don't know, maybe it's just because it's been slow with comic news, or because people are getting sick and tired of what has been said over the last couple of years. But more and more, people are focusing on the question, how can we fix the comic industry? Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we bring in old great storytellers and old great artists? Will that fix the comic industry? Etc., etc. I see more and more of these videos all the time now. And the problem is that even asking that question is irrelevant because you're proceeding upon false information. And again, this holds for the entertainment industry as well. But that false information is based in the question itself. You're saying, how can we fix this industry? Well, you're assuming that the industry is broken. It is not. It works perfectly as it is intended to work right now. So asking the question, how can we fix it, doesn't mean anything because it's not broken. And how can I say that? Well, I can say that because, as I just asserted a minute ago, the comic industry and the entertainment industry at large died already. It is dead and buried. What you see in front of you now is a completely different industry. One that is wearing the skin of the comic industry. One that is wearing the skin of the entertainment industry. And they're using that name to call themselves by, but it is doublespeak. So what you're trying to do in asking that question is you're trying to take the norm of how the old industry worked and apply it to the new industry. And when you apply that old norm to the new industry, which isn't the norm for the new industry, then you look at this industry and say, well, then it's broken. But it's not broken because it isn't that industry. It is something completely different. It has its own norm. And that norm is what we see around us today, being produced as comics and entertainment. So how and why can I say this? And where am I coming from when I say this? Well, let's go right to the very basics of what these industries are. Now, I would say these industries are, in some sense, a living thing. Now, they're not a living organism, but at the very least, they're a living entity. And any living thing seeks primarily to A, stay alive, and after it has secured its ability to stay alive, B, to thrive. And how does any living organism or any living entity first survive and then thrive? Well, they do so through power. I will freely admit that it does so through power. It has the power to thrive, which itself is built upon the power to survive. But the question then becomes, where does this power come from, and what is the system within which it operates that allows this living organism or living entity to survive and thrive? Now, I'm always talking about the old definition of hero. Well, I wouldn't call it old. I would say the traditional definition of hero that has been with us in Western civilization for at least 3,000 years, that it's built upon ideas of virtue and vice. And virtue, one of its mechanical definitions, is the ability or the power to accomplish one's ends. Now, as I have talked about in previous videos, talking about the ends of a man, that is something that deals with his nature and is more than just the ends that you set for yourself. But let's set that aside for today. That is a discussion I've already had. I just want to say that this same system operates within what you're trying to do as the ends within your life as well. Those ends could be trying to survive and trying to thrive. It's the exact same thing. The same model holds. And the model is, I understand in some way, usually through common sense or other collections of information and knowledge, I understand the rules of reality and those rules of reality, how they work with me and with humanity itself. And then I use my power as an individual in accord with those rules of reality. And then I'm able to bring into existence something that had not previously existed. And this is exactly what you do when you're producing entertainment. You're bringing into existence something that had not previously existed. And the only way that you can do so, again, with the ancient definition of art, you do so through order and ease by working with those rules of reality, and thus you can bring it into external reality by operating within the rules of that reality. This is the system that all of Western civilization is built on. And so it's a system upon which all of the institutions within Western civilization are built on. The idea of a merit system is this exact thing. You're saying that within reality, I need to follow these rules in order to survive and thrive. In doing those things, in enacting that for myself, I am participating within a merit system wherein reality allows me to survive. This is the basis of any merit system itself. And even money itself, even the monetary system that we have. Sure, it is a reflection of several different ideas within this system of reality, but its basis, its fundamental principles that it is based upon are exactly that, the principles of reality. You and me agreeing that in reality, this thing has a monetary value, and that monetary value we both agree on as X. So it all goes back to operating within a system of reality, and that system of reality gives you and allows you not only to use your own power, but to magnify your power in order to bring things into existence, in order to ensure that you survive and thrive. However, I'm always talking about how these quote-unquote progressive people are constantly going on about power. To them, everything is reducible to power. Now, I suppose I wasn't very specific previously. I should have been more specific. But their power that they're talking about is nothing more than political power. That's what they mean when they say power. It is a short-form version of the idea of political power. Everything for them operates within a system of political power. Within the old system that I'm talking about, where entertainment and comics thrived, in those systems, again, everything was based upon the rules of reality. But within this new system, everything is based upon the rules of politics. And so the power that they need, that these industries need to survive and thrive, come from the political. That's where they get their power from. And when I say everything within this system is based upon the political, and all power is political within this system, this is what they believe. If you go back to something like environmentalism, if you actually dig into this quote-unquote progressive idea, you understand why these people think that they can save the planet through enacting government programs, through, for example, taxing you or putting a tax on carbon or something like that. Why do they think they can get any result, let alone results which are controlling the environmental systems of the planet through a political action? It's because at the heart of this ideology, which it is basically environmentalism in the form that you see around you today most of the time, it derives itself right back at its core from an understanding that the environment is political. Or another larger example would be the idea that everyone can define reality for themselves. That itself is a political idea. They're saying that reality itself is controlled by the political. This is why some people think that they can call themselves, let's say, an eight-legged spirit unicorn, and that not only is what they think, but it is reality itself. Why? Because they believe, again, if you go back to the fundamentals of their political ideology, they believe that everything, including the environment, including reality itself, is controlled by the political. So the ultimate system within which everything operates, the ultimate system of rules that governs everything, to them is the political. This is why they need political power. And so again, all power to them is political. And if they need power to survive and thrive, it needs to be political power that they need to gain. And I talked a moment ago about how the rules of reality and operating within that system actually works, how you produce something which is artistic, how you survive and thrive through acting with or in accord with the rules of reality. How can we look at all of those things and apply them to this other system? This system where everything at its core is political, where the superstructure is the political. How and why does this system work? Well, we'll say quote unquote work. Well, it works in the following way. First off, money doesn't matter. Sure, they might use it in some fashion because it's a holdover from the old system, but money is not the system of exchange. The system of exchange is influence. And it's influence, of course, because the political is the system of understanding and belief within which people operate. And therefore, if you can influence people, then that allows you political power. And I've done entire videos on this probably about 2 years ago now, where I talked about the fact that for Marvel and DC, they no longer see their profits as being monetary. Their profits are awards. So they want to gain these awards. Why? Because these awards allow them influence. This influence allows them political power. So let's look at this in terms of what we see around us today, within the terms of June and the alphabet people, and how these companies, entertainment and the comic industry specifically, and really every company, is pandering to the alphabet people for this entire month. Why would they do that, especially if it's not going to make them any money? Well, again, the whole point is they don't care about money anymore. That's not the system of exchange. Sure, it might have a place, but it's not the fundamental place that it was in the old system. The fundamental place within this new system is influence, and it works as follows. For example, Marvel Comics puts out a comic. It doesn't make any money, and yet they keep on putting out this comic. They keep on trying to rejuvenate this comic. They keep on trying to expand the reach of this comic by putting it out in multiple forms. When this thing is losing money, why would they do so? Well, they do so because it's not about money, it's about influence. And that system of influence works in the following way. They put out a comic. Other people within the political system within which they are working then give them awards for these comics that they're putting out. Now, these awards can take various forms. They can be actual awards, actual trophies, or they can be stories, write-ups in the New York Times, or other very left-leaning institutions. They can shout these things off to the heavens, and so these things are in effect awards. And when these awards start flowing in for this work, what these people do at the company is they entice the people within these marginalized communities, such as the alphabet people, and say, hey, look, we are making your lifestyle something that everyone is talking about, and therefore it makes these alphabet people feel important. And again, lifestyle is very important because for Marvel Comics, they declared themselves, I guess it was probably about 7 years ago now, that they were a lifestyle brand. This is how lifestyle branding actually works. And so it doesn't really matter if those people, the alphabet people, go and buy these books or anyone else goes and buys these books. It is the fact that these books exist itself that allows them to say to these people, we are doing something for you and your lifestyle. And in exchange, all you need to do is take your power and give it to the political ideology, which A, you're probably a part of anyways, and B, that controls the system within which we work. And so, no, it's not even giving power directly to those companies. It's giving it to the system itself. And then the system itself, whether it be part of the political system or the judicial system or anything else, that system itself then recoups that company in a monetary fashion, usually, for what they have done in the fact that they have now roped in more or roped in tighter these people to the political system within which everything works. That is to say, the political system which they control and which they are a part of. And by the way, I guess I should have mentioned this at the first. This is the significant difference between the old system and the new system. The thing is that for reality, if your system is reality, you don't have any control over that. Reality either controls itself or has a metaphysical controller. Within a political system, however, it can be controlled by the people at the top. And so you serve the people at the top, the people who are controlling the system. That's exactly where all of this power that is being generated and given ends up. It ends up in their hands so that they can control and manage this system where they stay on top. And so they reward the people, the companies, for their service by giving them money or influence in some way that can be translated into money. And so allowing them to survive and thrive by feeding them in their efforts to convince the people at the bottom to feed the people at the top. And by the way, this entire system is in some way a perpetual motion machine, because the entire reason why these people, let's say the alphabet people, feel like they need these companies to tell them that they are helping their lifestyle, look, we are making you relevant in the eyes of the world, is because these people feel powerless. Again, it all goes back to this victim mentality. This victim mentality does have some basis in reality. Why? Because in convincing these people to take what little power they have and to give it to the people or institutions who are in control of this political system, they are forking over all of their power to someone else. And so, in effect, they are powerless. In effect, they do become that victimized class, but they're being victimized by the system itself, or by themselves operating within this system, because they're forking over all of what they need for themselves to survive and thrive to someone else in order for them to feel relevant. That someone else then provides them the system by which they think they are surviving and thriving, and therefore the entire thing goes around and around, and it feeds itself. And here's the point where I have to clarify where I'm coming from. Am I just pulling this out of my hat? Am I just spouting off conspiracy theories? No, I'm looking at history. This is a very specific pattern that you see throughout history. Why? Because the system that you see set up that I have just described is simply an oligarchy. Now, it has its own modern twist to it, but that's what happens with oligarchies and the like. They have a certain, let's just say, taste where they develop in a certain space and time. This is just the flavor of this oligarchy developing in this space and time. But that's what it is. And so you see, within this political system, it doesn't matter how much a thing sells. It doesn't matter if it has an audience. It doesn't matter if they're actually losing money on producing these things and shipping them out to people. It doesn't matter if you as a consumer are actually happy with the product. It doesn't matter if your supplier, who are in this case the comic companies, are actually making any money or whether you're pleased with them. None of this matters. All of those ideas, those merit-based ideas, and those money-based ideas are all ideas that operate under the old system of entertainment, and specifically comics, that is dead. So asking how can we fix the comic system, the comic industry, or the entertainment industry is an irrelevant question. You're trying to fix something that isn't broken. It is working within its own system, which most of us simply don't understand how it works yet. Why? Because we're being blinded by doublespeak in thinking that this thing, which is wearing the skin suit of the comic industry or the skin suit of the entertainment industry, is that thing that it used to be. It isn't. It is a completely different beast. Now, I'm not trying to blackpill anybody when I say all of this. What I'm actually doing is trying to really just describe what reality is and describe a situation which we should be prepared for. But the point is that this new system, this political system, is it ever going to change? Can we change it back? Well, first of all, I'd say no. There is a very, very slim chance that you're ever going to change it back. Why? Because the political actors who are now in control of the thing would rather see it die than to give it back to the control of the old system, to allow it to become what it used to be. Because really, this is part of their entire operating mechanism in wearing the skin suit of another older system. It's to convince the people to give their political power to them as part of something like nostalgia. But soon as those people learn the doublespeak, then that industry will be abandoned and it will die. So it's part of their basic business plan that they're going to drive this thing into the earth. They're going to kill it. They know they're going to kill it. Therefore, if you try to take it back over, they're just going to kill it earlier. They don't care. And they will not allow you to bring it back to what it used to be. But there is a glimmer of hope in this, and the glimmer of hope comes from, once again, just plain old history. Because we've seen this play out within recent modern history. Because, again, as I started talking about, where the people in Europe are beginning to see the doublespeak within their news media, and it is being compared to the people who began to see what was being given to them as news within the old USSR. This exact system is the system of the USSR. This is the system whereby they operated within political power, within a political structure where everything was political. And we have an example from history of the people who saw the fact that this behemoth, this thing which doesn't operate within the rules of reality, how it is eventually going to fall. Because reality, in one way or another, it's going to get its way. And this thing eventually is going to fall. And those people, specifically the people within the Eastern European countries, within the last decades before this behemoth fell, they said to themselves, okay, we can see, first of all, the doublespeak. We can understand that they're lying to us. They're not actually giving us anything of merit, which operates according to a system of reality. And so we know it's going to fall. But in order to soften that blow, in order to ensure that we're not going to be dragged down with it when that fall comes, we need to start building our own systems, our own underground systems, really, at that time. And what did they start with? They started with culture and entertainment. And so, 2 decades later, they had a thriving system of culture and entertainment in an underground way that allowed them to survive as a culture when the behemoth of the political system finally fell. So there is no fixing the system. There is no bringing the system back to where it once was. All that we really have left is us getting down in the dirt and starting to build an entire new system from scratch. How healthy is this thing going to be when the system finally falls? Well, that's up to you and up to me, and how much we want to support others or create for ourselves, which is within this new underground system that is based once again upon those ideas of merit. And the other ray of hope for this is the very fact that, of what I'm always talking about, the idea of hero, that operates within that old merit system. That operates within that system of reality that I talked about at the first. And when you look around you today, and you look at this political system, and you see these characters that are being produced by this politically controlled operation of so-called storytelling, you look at these characters and go, you're telling me they're heroes, but I can see they're not. You understand they're not. And that's because, of course, within this system that doesn't recognize reality, they can't create actual heroes. Hero is an idea of merit. Hero is an idea of virtue that operates within the system of reality, which they deny. So yeah, when you're looking at these characters that they declare within this current system to be heroes and say they're villains, you're absolutely right. They are villains. But more to the point is the fact that if you wish to go and support and build this system, this new underground system that we need to start or continue to build in order to create something which is based upon actual merit, which is a copy of that old system, you're looking at doing something heroic. You're looking at producing something in a heroic way. You're looking at supporting heroic ideals. And I'm sure the people on the other side, the people who are in this quote-unquote progressive system, think they're doing the same thing. But the real difference is they're operating within a system of political control. You, when you do so, are operating under a system of reality. So, if I've given you anything new to think about, hit like, hit the shield in the lower right-hand corner of your screen to subscribe, and leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about all this. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.